Hello again. You're going to have to bear with me. My mental health is playing up quite bad, but let's see if we can try and make it succinct still for you. Essentially, what I want to talk about is the purposes of these live streams is to not just rant about my mental fucking health all the time, because that's boring and I won't do that. Not even for myself. I don't enjoy that. I've been allowing myself to do that to get through so I can get to this aspect, and this is hopefully what I'm going to be pushing through to discuss with you. If you are by any chance listening, input, comments right now are very much appreciated. So the purpose of this was essentially me to explore if there's anything I can do to push through, to focus on, so I can accept the difficult times without much thought. This was a project I requested help from a few months ago, and nothing came of it, and I was going to leave it. So with the situation demanding me to explore a project or something to focus on, this is what I picked up as the simplest, easiest thing was there. So right, I'll try and explain it very quickly again. For about the past year, my mental health and spirituality have been merging. Sorry, my mental health, something's been going on with my schizophrenia. I think it was last year. It was the first time in about 10 years I relaxed, and I think that could be schizophrenia, just non-stop movement and non-stop rest, non-stop work. Last year was the first time I relaxed. My schizophrenia, I think, began to merge. I began to be able to see things from a distance, and it's actually helping my current situation, talking to camera right now about the past. So this is working for myself, at least on some level, so thank you for anyway. So I think my schizophrenia began to merge and unify, but it seemed to affect my spirituality as well, at least on some level. And the aspect is that I'll give you a quick rundown of my spiritual world. Is that I'm 34 and I've done nothing in my life. Not really. My hobby, my keen interest has been spirituality. Never really done much with it. No, not got many friends, not got many spiritual friends at present. So besides a year in Brighton, I've not had much opportunity in my life to discuss it. So a lot of this has stayed dormant within me and just been like a back catalogue, building and building. And all it is that with every bit of information that comes to me about everything, I try and build a picture about reality based upon it. Now, I am biased. I believe in spirituality, so my reality is heavily based in spirituality. So I think I'm coming back into my body a little bit more And the shaking's a good sign, by the way. So if you see me shaking, it means I'm coming back into my nervous system, and I'm allowing myself to rest into the shakiness, to allow greater ease and get me back into my body even more. So I apologise if I look even more of a mess. I forgot where we were at. I think it was a case of spirituality. So every bit of information that comes to me, I build a picture of reality. It's heavily based in spirituality. So that's where my bias is. And I've categorized the entire universe based on everything I've experienced. Now I say experienced and not lived, and because memory and life is a factor. Mishaps happen, imperfections happen. So what I'm getting at is, like a previous video, I was talking about my auntie being the reincarnation of Bruce Lee's teacher, Ip Man. And I said in that video, it's just what I believe. Now, I remembered since I've had 8 months of bombardment of my mental health on this, and as much as what my mental health has painted a picture of, would almost certainly create a situation where I would believe it. Now you're going to have to try and follow this, because it is a little bit complex. So my mental health has created a situation over the past 8 months that the picture looks like Ip Man is the reincarnation. My auntie is the reincarnation of Ip Man. That's the picture that my spirituality is painted in this new merger. But because it's been so relentless, and I haven't had the time to step back and really assess it, in the moment, if I had to make a split decision right now, I'd believe that my auntie's Ip Man. But if I was to step back and have a think and look over my life and rank it against what I value, there's no way I could say that. I don't believe it. The reason being, and I'll give you, this is a good insight. The reason being is that, now you're going to have to follow the little storyline about Ip Man and my auntie alongside this, whilst I'm trying to paint a picture about how I see the spiritual, how I see reality. So my uncle, through our interactions, wanted me to believe that I was the reincarnation of Ip Man. That's what I believed that my uncle wanted of me. And we have a very funny mixed up way of speaking. Me and my uncle was very spirituality based, and nothing was legible to the ear. So is that correct to say? He was into Taoism, so if you've ever read the Tao Te Ching, that gives you a starting point as to why that might be the situation. Anyway, because my uncle wanted me to believe that I was Ip Man, and I hold my uncle in such high regard, regardless of how much the past 6 months has been relentless to my life and has created a very plausible story that my auntie is Ip Man. And just looking at the pure facts, this side wins, without a shadow of a doubt. But because of where it was before, and who was giving me that message, how that message was given, what the possible implications of that can mean. Because, for instance, my uncle, it was all egolessness. So for my uncle to want me to think that I was the reincarnation of someone special means something. And I'm not prepared to run the risk of believing this new way of thinking, even though the evidence and the facts really do stack up in its favour above my own uncle, because of the completely out of placeness of that message. It was so strange to me and my uncle's relationship that for him to have given me that message, it's to say that, look, Andreas, even if your auntie is Ip Man, which you'll find out, I'm telling you this. I'm telling you that you're Ip Man. So, when the time comes that you might get challenged, just be patient with it. Right, you're going to have to give me a second here, because I just want to make sure I'm saying the right thing for you. Yeah? The other thing that me and my uncle were heavily based in was truth. So if that was a lie, that's another factor. So that's why, another reason I'm not letting go of it. But what I'm trying to say is, if you imagine that one little link between that situation and one possible plausible storyline of all these storylines that my psychosis creates for me, that's the sort of energy that goes into these decisions. And it's a bit hard to work through. Like, I'm sure you can listen and hear, because my mind isn't clear all the time. I don't have access to all the information. So I go through life and I create all these little bits of mismatched, unresolved situations, and they become a jigsaw puzzle. So like this one to this one, and this one to this one, and it becomes this like infinite flower of life. But where the flower of life is quite clearly defined, this is all like fuzzy and faded, and one piece could be another piece really. And but if you can there follow what I'm trying to say, if you imagine an infinite flower of life, and each piece is just a possible plausibility at the moment, and I'm pretty sure that from where I am and what I've done, just by enjoyment, my hobby, spirituality, we can slowly build an entire picture of the entire universe together. It will first be spiritual people to come in with the spiritual knowledge to create the spiritual world, because that's where my bias is. We'll get that really solid and tight, and then we'll let everybody come on board. Something like a Wikipedia, but for seeing the universe. That's what this project is. So if anybody is listening and can offer help and input, because I'd really like to do something like a Wikipedia, and I have resources available to put in and make this happen if needed. But you know what, if needed. But these videos are going to be the real starting point. So I'm hoping to have some friends on initially to be as an initial guide to my poor social interaction, to start the discussion, because this will be a gift to the world, definitely. But I'm so scared that you don't want it, and you're just gonna keep me trapped in my mental health. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is I'm planning to maybe get some friends on as co-hosts to this. I've got a website in mind already, but what I need suggestions on, and please, if anyone listens, do comment. What I just expressed to you about how I see the world. If you imagine that I have that as a possible picture in my head somewhere already, that infinite flower of life, it's in my head already, and it's just a matter of me living my life, and I approach the next piece at each given time. How best, given that I'm severely mentally ill, do I interact with people at present to take a subject? So we'll for instance, we'll pick a subject at the beginning of, or would see, this is what I mean. I don't know how it will work. Anyway, I'll have a think, and I'll ask a friend or two, and we'll hopefully be back with something a bit more coherent for you in way of nice stories.